That was good timing. That was. Brock is ready.
Welcome to the Grappling with Podcast. Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management.
Today.
Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your grappling journey, both on and off the mats, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please seek out personalized care from your own medical provider prior to implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
Go. Also, I say crazy, stupid things, and it doesn't represent anybody I know or I've ever talked to, including my gym, my mother, my father, my wife, or anybody else.
Yeah, by law, though, she kind of owns about 50% of the
Definitely.
stupid shit you say.
It will not hold up in court. If I'm going down, she's going down with me.
That's not...
Mutually assured destruction, is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
I like it.
Short disclaimer today.
Yeah, well, that's a good one, though.
Can we bow to Elio?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever been to a gym that does that?
No?
No?
But I mean, you know, he's worthy of a bow, I think.
True. There's some gyms that will in the beginning of class you like bow or whatever,
totally
like bow in. You'll bow in and then you'll turn to the picture that sometimes gyms hang like Carlos or then you bow to the picture and then you turn and you bow to each other.
I think we have
three bows.
We have the big three in here.
We do. I mean, we could like probably bow to all three.
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Just give them some homage to the.
It's when you're not used to it that it throws you off a little bit.
Oh, I see.
That you're like, which way am I turning? I actually dropped into a gym in Arizona. Great spot. Ethos, I think it is. Down in, is that Gilbert, right? Gilbert, Queen Creek area. Great dude, super nice. I will say though, I didn't know what we were doing when I think it was bowing in and out. They had you go to like your knees, like
Wait, are you serious?
Yep, like go to your knees and like sit on your heels, you know, and put your hands on your like quads, and then they recited something like, and then you bow.
Okay,
and then on the way up,
that's not an accurate.
That's not exactly what they said, but it's how it came in my ears.
And everyone knows, Bill.
What?
They came in your ear. Who knows what that...
Watch your tone.
No, I mean, just who
Watch
knows
your tone.
What you were hearing.
There's a lady present.
Okay.
Yes, my ears have unusual filters to them. So
that's all I was getting at.
Yeah. It was cool, though. I didn't know what I was trying to say. I did like kind of like, you know, when you're younger and you're like going to church and you don't like know the words of the songs, or like you visit with a friend or something, you're like, or maybe even a song on the radio. I still do that today. That's what I did.
Okay.
So it was cool.
Yeah.
But it was different. It threw me for a loop a little bit.
Okay.
With that, I have a fun story that I wanted to, Olivia wanted me to kick the podcast off with.
Yes.
We have a dear friend, a man that is called many things around the world. He has a mustache that people around the world would be jealous of. It really has a, what's the lead singer, Queen?
Freddie Mercury?
Very, very Freddie Mercury kind of vibe. I would even say maybe more robust. I went to an open mat with this young man, and it was interesting. He's a purple belt, and it's just an all affiliates kind of open mat. And I hadn't heard of this happening in a long time because it's kind of an old school thing. But a couple black belts showed up. We had never seen them before. So he went up to one of the black belts and was like, hey, do you want to roll? And the guy literally gave him one of these. If you could zoom in on my eyeballs, Olivia, because I'm gonna look at the camera as
I can't zoom in, but I will.
Zoom in. So for people looking, I'll tell you in a second. But he goes, hey, do you want to roll? And then the guy, he's like tying his belt and he goes,
so basically he glances down at his belt.
he looks him up and down.
Okay.
He drinks this dude in real solid.
Our friend.
Our friend. He drank our friend in. And he sighs and goes, well, where I'm from, typically you only ask people your belt level and under to roll. And our friend he's a fairly brash at times young man. And
He's a very nice guy, though.
and I'm sure I'm a very nice guy.
Yeah.
I would trust him to walk my dogs.
Yeah.
And I'm quoting not directly,
Yeah, indirectly, what?
like,
Secondhand.
but this is what he told me. And he said essentially, he goes, so should I just go fuck off? That's what our friend said to him.
To the guy.
Yeah.
So that was a rhetorical question.
He saw the
him.
guy says this to his face.
And he says,
He's like, should I just go fuck off then?
That's amazing.
And
Didn't we have an episode all about
did.
this?
And it was so odd, the timing of this. And because he listens and he heard this as well, or he remembered it. And he was just like, at the guy. So he says that to the guy, and the black belt just goes, well, it's all right. You know, it's cool. And damn, I just said his name.
Okay.
I'll beep it.
Just beep it.
So he then is.
I knew who you were talking about.
I know you did, but
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put my man on blast.
For
you know?
sure. Yeah, bleep it.
Yeah, he might get his butt touched. So he then he's like, he can see the hesitancy. He's like, are you sure? Like, you know, whatever. And he's like, no, it's fine. Well,
How kind of him.
How kind of him to bless him with this experience. And so our
Treat
friend,
him like a peasant. Like,
Right.
you shall, I'll let you in my presence.
but when
type
you
of way.
see our friend, you kind of get why people would do that, right?
What?
Treat him that way.
No.
No, I'm saying not because of his belt, but because of his like physical, how he looks,
He's a very respectful looking man.
but a little homely.
I think he's a very good looking man.
I think he has good bone structure, but
Okay.
you could imagine him if this was the 1300s, being outside the gates of the
What,
castle,
like he's a little scrappy?
begging. What? Yeah,
I wasn't going to say begging. I thought you
No.
were going to say like a mercenary or some kind of.
that's what I meant.
I'm glad you did the disclaimer today. Keep going. Keep going.
So
I'm enjoying this.
yeah, so they start to spar and roll. And then the guy just maybe a minute or two in, the guy just, is your finger bleeding? Because he scuffed. He was holding on to like a spider grip, and it was like it barely scuffed. He's like, "Oh, are you bleeding?" And he's like, "Oh, I guess it's just a scratch." And he's like, "Oh, no, you gotta tape that up." So then he goes jogging because I will say,
I know where this is
our
going.
friend was putting the samish.
Well, what I was going to say is, having rolled with this person that
when
is
he
our
wants
friend,
to, he can do damage.
is extremely tough purple belt.
Right. Yes, you could put whatever on it, and you'd be like, "Okay, sure,
Dude, yeah.
So he's and because of the initial interaction, he was definitely coming to play.
Yeah.
And so the guy calls him out on his scratch, and then so he goes jogging over to go tape it up. Before he even gets off the mat, it's not a big gym. Before he even gets off the mat, he turns around, and the guy's already asking the next person to roll. It's mid-round.
To me, that was like the guy pressed the abort button because he's getting his butt spanked
Oh yeah,
by a purple belt who,
There
he
was
insulted, basically.
very firm Marcellus Wallace reenactment going on.
That's a great reference.
Thank you. And if you didn't get it, you need to watch Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
So that was interesting to hear and be present.
I just want to know what part of the film with Marcellus Wallace are you referencing? Is it after the pawn shop incident, or
It's during the pawn
during
shop.
the pawn shop incident? Okay. Yep, I'm with
Butch
you now.
goes downstairs.
We don't need a
Zed
Yeah.
is
Yes.
dead.
not
Not
yet,
yet.
but he is.
He's like, "You okay?" He goes, "Nah, man."
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I'm with
hard
you.
pipe hitting dudes.
Yeah. Yeah, he took care of it, right?
Okay.
That was, and we just did a whole thing on that.
Yeah, crazy.
But that does go to show you. I mean, so let me ask
Still
you.
exists.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. Was this black belt from that academy?
No.
Then what the heck?
Right.
So I kind of, if the culture of that academy, and that is a black belt there, and that is their culture,
And
we
the
respect
culture
their
is not.
culture. What I get it. I'm just saying.
Even on top of that, like maybe you go to.
In other words, the culture of that academy you're dropping out on is not that.
Right.
And so the guy didn't do the win in Rome thing. He kind of.
Because I could, like, if I go to a gym, I think I said this, I'm going to default under some of those, like, etiquette things. Just,
Totally.
I'm going to wait to get waved onto the mat, like, by the, like, all these things that we don't typically do, but I know of them, so I'm gonna just feel them out.
Well, even as a black belt going to another gym, right? You're respectful of their culture and all that, right?
He was a third degree, so he's been a black belt for a long time. He's an old school guy.
Okay.
But it's been so long since I've actually seen that kind of stuff happen. But it's definitely still around.
Interesting. The timing was very unusual.
Yeah, I had one of our training partners that he's been training since 2007, 2008. He had a break.
Sure.
A long break in there. But he listened to our episode about that stuff and talked to me about just yesterday. And he was just like, dude, I'm telling you, when I started, there was like 5 black belts in the freaking state. Because he was around when like Mamazinho was out here. So he was talking to me how like, yeah, you did not ask one of those black belts to roll.
But again, that is kind of go with
this old school thing that's kind of dissipated.
But if that's the thing, it's fine.
Sure.
Just yeah.
Sure.
But
I would say it's a red flag. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's not kind of how I would
want it,
right? But
in America.
Wow, that's an interesting story.
Sure. Yeah, I thought so too.
Oddly, you have another one.
I do. Not as dramatic, but I would say crazier.
Okay.
This is nuts.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a life-threatening injury in jiu-jitsu? Like a truly life-threatening injury. I've heard of people getting spiked. I mean, I guess you could call that life-threatening. But
yeah, you could.
Obviously, we choke each other, so it's like if someone wanted to literally kill you. But
yeah, it would.
Pretty rare.
Very rare.
Right?
I mean, I can think of some theoretical things.
100%.
Sure.
What comes to your head in like a theoretical? Like
usually neck. If we're talking about something really, really bad.
Sure.
Usually a neck injury.
Yeah.
Right. Which
I'd agree.
You could.
We saw that guy ADCC. He had a buggy choke, and the dude stood up. If you're in a choke, you can slam out of a choke in ADCC, and trials. Excuse me, and he just spiked the guy, and the guy literally couldn't walk.
That could be catastrophic, right? Yeah. Absolutely. And theoretically, so we've seen this in the medical literature with like chiropractic adjustments on necks. The neck, the vertebrae have, unlike the other vertebrae of the thoracic spine and lumbar spine, the cervical spine, which is the neck, have vertebral arteries actually running up through the vertebrae themselves. And there have been rare cases of vertebral artery dissection, where the artery itself gets damaged and can contribute to a stroke into the back of the brain.
Interesting.
Very rare, but it's in the medical literature.
Sure.
So, along with that would be part of like a neck injury that you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were like super old, I know you're looking at me, and had severe vascular disease, like a lot of plaques up, blockages up in the carotid arteries.
Okay.
Theoretically, grabbing a hold of that and wrenching around on the neck. You might, and this is someone that would have to have severe disease, and they probably wouldn't be training jujitsu.
Yeah.
You could have what's called an embolic stroke, where part of the plaque is ruptured, travels up into the brain, and right. And so that's, I mean, we're talking like just theoretical in a very specific population. So
I ran into someone that had a legit life-threatening injury.
Okay.
During jiu-jitsu. Crazy.
Well, tell me about it.
Yeah. So this happened 6 years ago. And
how old were they?
Let's see. He was a guy that would have been in my division, so he's at least
probably early 30s then.
He's mid 30s, mid to late.
So maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
At the time. Okay.
Yeah. Not old. Good physical condition, all that. He's probably a blue purple belt at this time. And he has someone in a triangle, and someone lifts him up, not above their shoulders or anything crazy, like Rampage Jackson. Just lifts him up and then kind of pops him down. Douchey move. Yes.
Sure.
Especially a training partner.
Right.
And kind of stacks him. And he felt like a pop. Kind of like feeling.
In his neck?
Yep. And he knew immediately, like, oh, that's freaking weird.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. Like something's kind of odd. It was sore, but nothing that would make you think like, oh, I need to go to the hospital or something like that. A week and a half later, the left side of his face starts going droopy. His eye, lack of feel, actual it's literally drooping, right? He goes and tries to figure out what it is, gets an MRI or whatever scan that would be. And it turns out his artery got clipped, and the blood started, is that coagulating or something like it started like, it created a blockage started to create from this cut that happened. And the blood flow was now limited and was essentially causing a stroke. And but what had happened is his jaw, when he got stacked, like a little pop, his jaw went in to his artery and clipped it.
What artery are we talking about?
I don't know, the one on the side.
So those are the carotids, and
I believe it was the carotid. Like
the carotid breaks off into two branches. You know where males have kind of their Adam's apple. At that level, the common carotid breaks off into what's called the internal and external carotid arteries, and they supply different areas of the brain. Where the internal one goes deep, and the external one is more, supplies some of the areas of the face as well. That what you're talking about is a cranial nerve 7 palsy, otherwise known as Bell's palsy.
I think he said something because he tried to say that he said the technical
cranial nerve 7,
thing.
The facial nerve, that drooping is responsible for motor function of the face. Have you ever seen someone with Bell's palsy? Where they when half the face kind of goes.
When the Voldemort started coming around, we looked it up because that was a side effect of
can be right
some juice.
But the cranial nerves come off of the brainstem. And depending on where they are, usually the lower number cranial nerves, like 2, 3, the eyes are higher up in the brainstem, and 7, as you go down lower, they're lower in the brainstem. Typically, if that was, I'm just saying typically, if that was a stroke that affected the brainstem, you'd have more than a facial droop. Something seems a little wonky.
And it was a week and a half later.
Something seems a little wonky about that to me.
How they said it was, it clipped the artery.
Okay.
Like his jaw essentially got compressed.
Okay.
It clipped the artery. It then was like a blockage was created.
Sure.
And then that's what limited the blood path.
Yeah, that still doesn't make sense to me, I'll tell you, because that's too surgical as far as what's affected. So now
I don't know if he had other things.
Well,
but that was one
it's
thing
very
that
interesting.
He noticed.
When you're talking about clipping, in other words, you probably pinched it.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can damage the endothelium, which is the inner layer. And when that's inflamed, that can be what's called a nidus, or a beginning of something that can form a blood clot in there. If you did, like anything else, right? But if you if you have a clot in the carotid,
Yeah.
and that travels to a terminal vessel, in other words, where it can't go any further because it's too narrow,
Yeah.
then everything that supplies is gone, right? And just to have one cranial nerve affected, something sounds a little weird by that. I would have to look at all the studies
or
and
talk to him and like
talk to him a little more about it.
Because it was obviously we're just kind of talking it because he had a stiff neck and he was just like, I'm just playing it safe because I have like PTSD from a previous injury.
What's more likely is the facial nerve passes through here.
Well, I guess he had to have surgery on his artery.
He might, but my point is cause and effect can sometimes be different. During their workup, they may have noticed something that may have been there, but it doesn't mean that was causative. And I don't know. I didn't do the whole, but in general, when you have a stroke involving the carotid artery at that level, it's typically much more catastrophic as far as function goes.
Right.
You know, you could have like, not just like the facial nerve. I mean, there'd be a lot of problems with that. Those are called embolic strokes.
Yeah.
I don't know, but sometimes this happens in medicine. I'm speculating.
Sure.
Okay. This may very well be something that happened, but it just seems a little odd. More than likely, I would suspect that the cranial nerve itself, cranial nerve 7, as it comes out, it comes through this front area of the jaw, passes through the parotid gland. You know, one of the things that kind of squirts saliva and stuff like that, just for a general thing, right? That can certainly be damaged superficially by that kind of movement, and then can start to, when it starts to become inflamed, you can have like that delayed response where then it will stop functioning well. You know, that's what Bell's palsy is basically. It's a isolated inflammatory component of the facial nerve on one side that causes that droop. But so, yeah, that's very odd. It's something I'd have to, but what my point was, sometimes when we look into things, then we find things we think explain it. Right? Like, we found, we call those incidentalomas, right? Basically, we kind of found it on the way, but is it clinically relevant to what we're dealing with? Now, of course, when you see something going on in the carotid artery, they're probably like, hey, maybe he had something there. It was like a ticking time bomb or something, right? That could have got him eventually. I don't know, but that's very, very interesting. And I wouldn't think that you would injure the carotid artery itself by that kind of mechanism.
Yeah, they were saying like if he waited any longer, like much longer, he would have died or something. Because it was some blockage or like.
Well, that's my point. That's what an embolic stroke is. So an embolic stroke is, in other words, you'd form a blood clot here at the site of injury, if this was what happened, right? Yeah. And then that could then dislodge. And because the vessels here in the neck, what I'm pointing to, those of you who are listening, is just the side of my neck, the carotid artery are larger. As you travel further into the brain and they start branching, they get smaller and smaller. And there's a point where that clot can no longer fit through, and then it lodges, and then it dams up the blood supply, and then everything that's supposed to be supplied there will start to die. And it's usually a much greater area from something like the carotid artery, as opposed to just the cranial nerve 7 being affected.
Is this something I need to worry about?
You? No.
Yes. Because I got a thick neck?
No, I would, in general, like with guillotines and stuff, I mean, all those things are potentially dangerous. People that are trying to wiggle and squirm their way out of a super tight guillotine. I don't think it's necessarily good for you. I mean, if someone's got you super deep in one, unless it's a life or death situation, you probably should tap.
Right.
That's just my opinion on that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's actually very interesting. I'd like to actually kind of learn more of that, but just from
I actually brought him. He's just going to come on right now.
We'll bring him on in.
Come on in.
Just from medical curiosity. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, if I see him again, I'll have to pick his brain just a little bit more to kind of see, because obviously we're just
I'm not saying
talking.
Yeah, man, and I don't have all the information.
My doctor friend calls you a punk ass bitch.
Oh my god!
And that you're lying to get pub. I'm gonna do it.
Okay, but then I'll have to
you'll have to back your way out of that one.
No, I'll just say that you're basically a piece of shit, and then I didn't say that. Just listen to the podcast,
and then it'd be like, no, I know.
Okay,
like, oh,
well, at least he knows you.
That's offensive. Well, those are my stories for story time.
Those are really good ones.
Thanks.
I like it.
We had a request to go over EBI 20, the absolutes. EBI is Eddie Bravo Invitational. So it's a tournament that's coming up this weekend. So we're actually going to clip this little section here and send it out tomorrow morning.
Oh.
So people can hear predictions and just kind of a little bit of a preview if they want to watch it. So I wanted to go over that first because there is some stellar names in this tournament. There's a possible 50 grand prize. Why did they throw possible in there? It's because if you win, I believe it's 20 grand, but if you get a submission like every step of the way, let's say, if you have 3 matches, you get 10 grand for every submission.
So you have the potential to earn that.
The potential.
And if you, they haven't changed the EBI rules that you know of, right? They're kind of standard still.
Still the same. They have EBI overtimes.
3 overtimes.
Yes.
Up to 3 overtimes.
Yeah, 2 minutes max. I got to set my fantasy lineup. I just remembered. Oh, my gosh. So same with you, Liv. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, standard submission only. If there's no submission in regulation, then they go into overtime where essentially you get to pick if you're going to start in an armbar position.
Yeah, they call spider web.
Or in with back control with a seatbelt.
Right.
Seatbelt grip. Typically, people pick back control. That's the most common one. Probably like 80% of the time, people will start off with that until they find that they are behind and they need a quick submission. That's where spiderweb comes in.
Right.
And from a tactical perspective, because you're either going to get out of spiderweb fairly quickly,
that's right,
or you're going to get a quick sub right away.
And those people that don't know, if you don't, they also count, there's no submission, they will count control time. And so a lot of people feel in overtime. Yeah. A lot of people feel like they can control the back, to your point, what you just said, better. And so they'll pick that. So you can have no submission, but if someone had the fastest escape times, they win. Right.
Yeah. Whoever. Yeah, exactly. So that's how they would determine a winner if there was no submission in regulation or overtime. But we have some ADCC medalists in this.
Some trials winners.
Right. We have it's an absolute, so there's no weight class. And we have some no one's really all that small. I think the smallest we have is 88 kilos, all the way up to your super heavies, ultra heavies.
Yeah.
But it's a nice card. We don't have the bracket yet either. So we're just going to kind of go over the people that are in it.
Yeah.
And maybe a final prediction at the end there.
Sure. I think that I was saying the absolutes, that kind of, for me, puts a fly in the ointment a little bit.
Big time.
Just because of, we're not doing like middleweights or whatever. Yeah. So. Yeah,
it definitely changes things.
Interesting.
You might have picked, if it was just a single weight division.
Right.
You might have went with Isaac Michel. Like B team member that had a great showing at ADCC. He had a war with Wagner. Really close match. He's got some really big wins, and he's a little bit of an up and coming guy, but
definitely
in his weight division, he's formidable. That's for sure.
Yep.
But with the absolute going in there, he's going to have to go against some pretty big boys.
So he's obviously one of the ones.
Yeah. And, so Isaac Michel, B team, like I said, all that. We also have another B team member, which is Nicky Rod. I feel like he's got to be one of the favorites.
I was going to say, just because of size, athleticism.
Yeah.
The fact that he's just coming off of a silver medal at ADCC. I mean.
And just his style is he's hard to submit.
Yep.
He's going to be probably, now this is where I think he could run into trouble. I think he will be good at, like if he starts on the back, he's the guy that has the famous line, anything below the eyebrows,
right,
is fair game
for the
choke. He will choke you.
Choke your face. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think his bugaboo could be escape time. Yes, he is athletic. He is absolutely a beast. But Kaynan Duarte, and I get it, Kaynan Duarte is literally maybe the second best grappler in the world, locked him up, and he could not get out. This was also a little bit ago. I'm sure he's developed since then. But that's the one weakness I could see him having, especially because he's going to run into some really seasoned vets in here.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I disagree a little bit with that. I think the athleticism that guy has, explosiveness. I think he can make. He's really good at pulling the trigger on escapes. I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem.
Is your opinion that because all you can think about is him with his shirt off?
No,
Prove it.
You can't prove a negative.
I guess you can't prove that. I guess we'll just all assume. He's bodied up, though.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Better body. Hasim Rita, Nicky Rudd.
Dude. Hasim Rita.
Okay. So make sure you weren't racist. So, speaking of Hasim Rita,
yes,
he is also in this.
I know.
Oddly, he is in one of the images where it has a bunch of the names, but he is not in another image that has a bunch of the headshots. So I don't know if that means he pulled out or something like that. But he did just do pan nogi, nogi pans, last weekend. And he didn't get heel hooks, so some sort of injury I don't think would happen. So if he's in, I think he's got really good potential.
I agree. He's one of my favorites in general as a grappler. I mean,
explosive, sharp, submission skills.
Super sharp.
Just a killer when it comes to actual submissions.
The limb length, if it goes into overtime for trapping people, I mean, it's going to be tough.
The body type that he has is incredible. So he is a big guy.
Yep.
But he's not like João Gabriel Hoka or something like that, where he's just tall and wide and everything. He's actually fairly lean, muscular, but not overly muscular. So I think he can really, he has a chance to do some damage.
I completely agree with that.
At a minimum, he'll make this tournament very fun to watch because he chains submissions really nicely.
Yeah.
And he will probably have at least one highlight reel.
I've said this before, but Carrie and I were watching him back during the quintet type of competitions where that's when I first noticed him. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just really.
He was on the losing side of one of the biggest highlights, but it was still awesome.
Super impressed though with him as a grappler.
Yeah. Maybe the biggest moment at ADCC also when he
armbarred that armbar. That's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at the list. I've said that there wasn't anybody too small, but I'm seeing a little name on here. A little Jason Rao.
Oh, interesting.
Jason Rao is a black belt out of the old Henzo Gracie school. I believe he's with Matt Serra now, which they're kind of like related sister schools, if you will. He's always kind of jumped around with them. But he's a leg lock specialist, and he's not big. I think he's maybe 77 kilo, could even be smaller, but he's definitely not a huge guy. That's going to be an interesting one, and I think he has the chance to at least, depending on how his bracket looks, maybe surprise someone.
Well, it just harkens back to the previous ADC with Lachlan Giles, who did the absolutes and was just
66 kilo.
Heel hooking fools,
and all the big foos that happened to win their division.
I know.
You had Patrick Gaudio. I think he got silver that year.
Yeah.
Kaynan Duarte.
Muhammad Ali.
And Kaynan won his division that year. And then Ali actually, he didn't, but he's a world champion.
But so this is where absolutes to me is really interesting. When there's a big disparity like that.
Yeah. We'd love to see it.
I do. Because
instantly you root for the small guy.
Always. Because I'm a small guy, relatively.
Yeah, in the arms.
Well, pretty much all over. I'm not really a big person.
That's what she said.
Well, you can talk to my wife
about that. Trust me, she's told me so many times.
Carrie has?
Gosh.
Yeah, you shouldn't have asked her.
It's brutal. You make one comment and forever she's sending you pictures.
So, but I think
You're
it's really
blushing. Your
No,
blood.
it's
You get a little red a little
embarrassing.
bit.
I'm just thinking of what Carrie has said to you, and I'm laughing
Yeah.
because So,
Watch your mouth. My mom watches us.
you know what?
My mom watches it now too.
Well, your mother knows whom she spawned,
That's true.
so she's used to it now.
That's true.
Hopefully, but I like when there's a big disparity like that because it seems like they can get underneath and
speed
start
becomes a
attacking
huge factor.
big time,
And really technical ability.
Yeah,
is when you really get to see one of the reasons we all like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, is
leverage and technique can prevail over mass and strength.
Yeah, I mean, was it Fabrizio Andre? Like back at
Against Victor
ADCC.
Hugo.
Yeah, I mean, just that kind of match is super exciting to me. So that's cool. Cool.
Yeah. So we'll see how he does.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go over every single person
Yeah.
because I don't think this list has every single person.
No, it says and more at the end.
Yeah, but some of the prominent names. We also have a guy lesser known. He's not a huge name, but very good. He's actually done quite well. I don't believe he's won any major tournaments besides like Masters or something like that. And I don't know exactly what he's won. I just know he's been on the podium, and his name's Dan Martinez. Very thick, muscly young man. Good wrestling. Very kind of stingy style. I think he could be one of those guys that, for let's say a Jason Rao, to maybe expose a little bit, but at the same time, he's going to be a hard out for guys like Nicky Rod. So that's the odd thing. I think a specialist can come in and maybe do well with him, or at least prevail. But
yes.
Yeah, you see him there.
Now that I see his face, I know who it is.
Yeah, when you see his face,
Yep.
you're like, okay, I've seen that guy.
I have. Yep.
But I think he could pose a little bit of a threat to maybe a little bit less experienced guys, which is odd to say for like someone like Nicky Rod, but he still has only been in the game for a few years. And Dan Martinez is a seasoned vet. So he kind of throws that journeyman piece in there that I think could be hard.
Man, this is a good card.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're going to have the same thing with Steven Martinez. He's going to kind of fall into the same same area there. But then we get some of these new names that are really making a footprint right away. And that's Andre Porfirio. This guy is from Brazil.
Yep.
I say that like a true Rio de Janeirian.
You know, Professor Andrea is probably listening to this
That's why
and
I
just
said it.
laughing at you.
No, she's saying, you got it. You nailed it.
No, she's not.
Rio, comment.
Rio de Janeiro.
She'll comment. She'll give you like private Portuguese instructions just for everyone's public health.
Actually, speaking of lessons in the vernacular.
Oh, I like the word. Okay.
Thank you. We had someone comment about fat shaming.
I freaking knew it.
And they said, Bill is right. Fat shaming can work. Even to the point
Well,
that...
he said it depends on the dose.
Can you... How dare you?
Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Okay.
Depending on the dose. But my vernacular shaming, my accent shaming, helps someone get better at English.
Is that a mic drop look you're just doing?
Exhibit A. I helped someone. I birthed someone into America.
Did you?
I don't even know what to say about that.
You can't dispute it.
I don't even know what you're saying.
It's
right now.
on the record.
So you're a trans...
What?
No, hold on. Trans-American, because it's coming from South America to North America.
This person's from South Europe.
Okay, then
The
it's
eastern
Then
side.
you're a transatlantic midwife.
Transatlantic midwife. I'll allow it.
Because you've birthed them
Yes.
and you're taking credit for
Yes,
that.
I was impregnated by Russia.
No, that's not a midwife.
Hold on.
Okay.
You
I've-
birthed yourself? You birthed?
No, I birthed this young
midwifed
man
yourself
into speaking English better by way of
making fun of him.
yes.
Okay.
You with me?
I'm with you now.
Thank you. Exhibit A done. So, where were we?
Wait, so you're shaming him, made him work on his English?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Bill.
Thank you.
Hey,
Because he didn't want to be shamed anymore
Hey.
by you.
you're welcome.
by the way,
Why would I
Not
be
you.
welcome?
I'm looking at
Oh, okay.
the Ruski.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to make a comment before it's lost in my
Okay.
couple marbles
Well,
I've
you got
left.
30 seconds.
I know. So there was a video that was posted on our website.
Uh-huh.
Well, not ours, but our gym's website.
Or Jim's website?
Uh-huh.
We're talking about Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's my website.
Oh my God. Okay. You're taking
Okay,
that's
keep
fine.
Going, keep going.
But the young man that was in your first story apparently ate 6 cupcakes in under a minute.
Yeah.
And there was some trash talk going on that's like Bill could do that shit with his eyes closed, like without even a warm up.
Let's not say Bill could do that with his eyes closed. Let's say Bill has.
But this was on video and we have actual documentation.
Right.
So we would need you to at least do 7 with a timer on because I saw the timer in the background.
Yep. We intentionally did that.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm going to be honest, Bill. I don't know if you could do it. Well, I mean, I guess if you had water, but
To
you'd
death
have
He
to
had
it.
water.
Well,
He
you
had
have
water.
to go twice, like 2 cupcakes without water, which is what he did, and then you could.
Listen up. Okay. You ever watch Tiger Woods practice?
Mm.
No. No, you haven't. You ever see Jordan practice? They don't allow it. Okay.
Because your skill level is so high.
Yeah. I'm not going to allow you to film me doing my work.
I see.
Okay.
And then if we have a contest,
You just have to reap the benefits.
I see. Okay.
Enjoy.
I
Drink
still,
it in.
Yeah. I still.
Oh, he was complaining too. He was like, if I had water the whole time, I could have ate 17 of those.
He did say that.
He's pretty upset about it, to be honest.
Well, I want to put your mouth where your money is.
You stop talking about my mouth.
I'm just saying, dude.
I'll call the cops immediately.
I was super impressed by that.
Honestly, it was pretty good. And those cupcakes were delish.
They were.
We
good.
had the last 2.
We did.
All I'm saying is I think he's the champion right now.
I mean, I'll allow it,
Okay.
but I'm also the guy that ate 5 full-size donuts right after practice. Full size.
With the peanut butter jelly.
And one has
Oh my God.
one.
It's a peanut butter jelly donut.
It's
donut
the size of
filled.
my face,
Mm-hmm.
and it is glazed, and it's stuffed with probably half a can of peanut butter
Mm.
and then half a can of jelly.
Oh.
That was the starter. Hey, that was the starter.
Oh.
That one just got my insulin going, just warming it up.
Your pancreas is like, let's get it going on.
More.
Okay.
Sorry. And then I had a maple bar.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had a jelly stuffed, and then I went with a custard stuff, and then I had this little what? Say something.
You're doing a disservice to humanity not documenting this. It'd be almost like
true.
National Geographic.
That's true. You're right.
Don't you think? Olivia?
Yeah, I don't.
We could have some ridiculous English accent, not a real one, but
Mhm.
like an American trying to do one,
Yeah.
saying, here is Bill in his natural habitat.
Right.
Right.
David Attenborough.
David Attenborough, right? And
I know you're listening. Holla at your boy.
I'm just saying, with that kind of just the skill set you
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
you
yeah,
should
yeah.
share it with the world. Is all I'm saying.
I believe you're onto something because I did post a little video of me just panning my kill,
Mm-hmm.
which are donuts,
Mm-hmm.
and someone liked it. That was unexpected.
Okay.
Tex Johnson.
Oh yeah, he did.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
So make it happen.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry for the interruption. That was a little. It was
Yeah.
on my mind, so I wanted to get it out before I
I
forgot
got
it.
Got mine on my money on my mind. So, okay. We're going to keep moving on this little list here.
Okay.
Andre Porfirio. This
Yeah,
guy, Brazilian stud. Was he at ADCC? Gosh. I don't think
I don't-
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I think he was going to be and he got hurt, or he was alternate or something. But he just got a big win recently. The guy is an absolute stud. He's going to cause problems. Mark my word.
Okay.
Maybe dark horse. Maybe dark horse.
Interesting.
Throwing it out there.
Okay.
Staying in Brazil, we're going to go to Roosevelt Souza.
Oh, nice.
Now, this guy is a tank. Some people would call it a brick shithouse. Okay. People might sleep on him a little bit because he had not the best showing at ADCC
Sure.
because Gordon decided to heel hook him in 4 seconds. But you didn't get to see like the whole meal deal there.
For sure.
And the reason Gordon says in his interviews, his post interviews, he's like, there's a reason why I went after his heel immediately.
Yep.
Is because that guy will be very difficult to deal with if he gets into his positions.
Mm-hmm.
He can be very, I won't say stally in a shitty way, but he can be positionally dominant and very hard to move. He's a very big guy. He comes out of fight sports, and they, you know, have really tactical planning, if that even makes sense how I said that.
Yeah.
But they're very tactical with their game plans. So he could be very difficult to deal with. Kyle Boehm. Boom. This is the man that recognized Nikita from a mile away. Yelled his name to him. Said, Nikita, thank you for picking me. We got a hug. He had a tank top on. I touched his skin.
And, you know, Nikita basically had to change his probably shorts after that.
Oh, my goodness. It was weird. Okay. So we go, I go up to the guy. And I think I said this story. But I'm like, hey, remember this dude? He's the one that picked you. Because Kyle liked and commented
on our
dark horse picks.
Yes.
And he goes, Nikita. He remembered it. He legit did. Nikita turns super red. And we're like, can we get a photo? And he was like, very thankful. He was like, hey, man, thanks for you guys just, you know, being supportive and stuff like that. It was great. We turn, we get a photo. He's in between us, like with his arms kind of like around each one of us. And he wasn't even hover handing. You know how that can be kind of weird when dudes are like, I don't really want to touch him. He held us in. He nestled us into his bosom. And it was interesting. Olivia takes the photo. I release my underhook and I start backing away, and Nikita doesn't. Nikita keeps holding him by the ribs, and you can see Kyle's like this, and he's like, okay, and he starts kind of tapping him on the chest, and Nikita, I see like his knuckles are turning white, and he's like kind of holding on to him like,
you're such a liar. I don't remember this at all.
that's because you were drunk.
I don't even drink.
He's holding on to him, and you can see Kyle starts to kind of like he's looking at Nikita, and he kind of taps him on the chest, and then he looks at me like he goes like this, like, what's wrong with this guy? It was interesting. And then Nikita obviously had a moment and it was like, oh, okay, I gotta let go. Very interesting moment to be around. So Kyle Boehm, he is, maybe he'll comment on this and tell me how to say his name.
Okay, I gotta be honest. How is anyone want to be your friend with the stories that you tell?
Thus the disclaimer.
Yes.
But it's kind of hard to disclaim it when he's like, yeah, my buddy. I don't know. She just said it, and I just wanted to jump on the bandwagon. I thought it was funny.
You.
Yeah.
How dare you? So Kyle can obviously, he's going to sneeze. COVID. So
you can't say that.
Baltimore. Kyle can obviously run away with this.
Yeah.
He is an EBI master.
That was what I was going to say. The experience under this rule set alone.
Yeah.
And when they go through their qualifiers, right? Or you know, they have their own.
Yeah, you have to. Some of these guys had to win a tournament just to get in. AB or ABCC.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that, just because of the experience factor, and just, you know, this skill set he's really, really comfortable with. Yeah.
And I would say it probably doesn't matter what his bracket looks like. Yeah. He's going to be a threat to anybody. Especially because his overtime. Now he's a submission hunter, right? That's his thing. He thrives in sub only. But a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll stall in the regulation to get to overtime because maybe they're outgunned in regulation. Maybe they're going against a big name that just they know that they're never going to get this guy's back.
For sure.
They're not going to get into a positive position.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you stall as much as you can to get to overtime, and then you hopefully win on kind of a break in the rules. Unfortunately,
Sure, or faster escape or whatever.
Every rule set has its downfalls. That's EBI's.
But that would be a mistake against him.
Yeah. Why?
Because he trains those overtime positions all the time.
Right. He's
the strategy, all the different tools he has in his tool.
Yep.
I mean,
and once again, physically gifted, I would say. Ex rock climber, very strong. Mm-hmm. Everyone that's ever gone against him has said he's extremely much stronger than you think. Mm-hmm. Good length, body type, all that good stuff. So he's got to be up there as a favorite.
I'm with you on that one for sure.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about my boyfriend, Giancarlo Bodoni?
So he's on a tear.
Yeah.
If you listen to, I thought it was fascinating. If you listen to Danaher's recent interview on the Lex Friedman podcast.
Yeah. Shout out. Definitely a good listen.
That was
long, but
it's fantastic. You can break it up into chunks. It's fantastic. Yeah. He talked about the evolution of him just over a 10-month period,
which
right?
is very interesting.
Super interesting. And it just shows you, I mean, that guy can never be counted out. And they are training for this rule. I mean, Danaher's a mastermind. You know, and you look at the success that his students had in the early EBIs.
And I believe he finished everyone but one in his division. So he's a killer.
He's right up there. I mean, that's why this is such an interesting thing. If it was like his weight class, I think I would automatically say he'd be one of my favorites to win.
Yeah.
The fact that it's absolutes is more interesting because he's not small.
Right. He was an 88 kilo winner of ADCC.
And it'd be interesting to see where he's coming in at during absolutes because he's probably not going to, why would he cut weight or something,
Yeah.
So that's going to be very interesting. But I think he's right up there with anyone as far as this competition.
He's just on fire for sure.
It's fantastic. So
probably,
he's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's probably my favorite to win the whole thing. If I had to put a couple shekels down, I would probably do it with him. Obviously, he can run into some issues with some of the guys we've already talked about. Maybe Nicky Rod.
I was exactly going to say Nicky Rod just because I think there's some knowledge about each other's game a little bit.
Sure.
So
that'd be fascinating.
I think so too.
But the last 10 months have been the biggest growth for Bodoni, and they haven't trained together in that 10 months. So that'll be fascinating to see.
That's a really good one.
A little bit lesser known, but European ADCC trials winner. Also had a pretty good showing at ADCC is Luke Griffith.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I missed that.
Yep. He is a new wave guy, so he's under Danaher. He's Gordon Ryan's, one of Gordon's main training partners.
Oh, I'm seeing this. Okay, I know who he is.
Also, he is a teammate of Bodoni, which is fairly interesting.
That is interesting.
He's technically a brown belt, which in Nogi, the belts kind of don't mean quite as much.
I mean, what's Nicky Rod?
Purple belt.
That's my point. He's a silver medalist.
Right.
So.
I'll be interested to see if Griffith is still in this tournament because he just competed at Pans and he was in the absolute division. He was armbarred by Jacob Couch, the Hillbilly Hammer. And it's pretty gross because in the video, if you go on Instagram, look up Flow Grappling, and you'll see just a little 30-second clip of Couch armbarring him. You hear his arm.
Wow.
And it's like, it sounds like crumpling up a paper, like a piece of paper. It's pretty gnarly. So I don't know. Maybe those are just some ligaments moving around or something, but it was audible. And it's
usually bad.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty. And you can see him kind of favoring a little bit right away when they break up.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if he actually maintains and stays in that. I do see him on the poster still. So we'll see. But he can give some guys some troubles for sure, but I just don't see him getting to that upper echelon yet. But huge guy, got great potential. Elder Cruz.
That's what I was about to say next. Yeah.
What do you think about this guy?
I mean, God, this is such a stacked card, man.
I mean, I don't want to call him a dark horse, but
oh man, I mean, any of these people, I mean, you could make an argument for almost most of them.
Yeah.
So that's what's so cool about this.
Yeah, Elder Cruz, heavy wrestling.
Yeah.
Not a collegiate wrestler, which is interesting, but he can wrestle with anybody. I believe he actually beat Nicky Rod at a Who's Number One. So that says a lot about him, and he out wrestled. I mean, it was a very close match. So saying he out wrestled him is,
yeah, I saw that match. But I mean, yeah, his wrestling's great.
He won.
He did win.
Yeah.
And it was, I would argue, that match in particular wasn't the most exciting one.
Sure.
But they definitely
that's coming from a guy that wanted to see Wagner and Josh Hinger again.
You know what?
Keep going.
You're a monster.
That's true. You have no filter.
Oh my gosh.
Keep
going. But I mean, I think he's, I mean, he can hold his own on the feet. I mean, so well. I mean, and so, gosh, man.
He got heel hooked pretty quick with a real sneaky heel hook at Pan's no-gi last weekend.
And this is my own ignorance. Maybe you can fill in on this. I don't know how much experience he has in this rule set.
Right. When someone has him in a bad spot.
Let's say it goes to overtime.
Sure.
Which it certainly could, the way he.
Sure.
Yeah. That's where I would wonder. And maybe he does. It might be my own ignorance. I just don't.
That's a great point. I think it'll be very interesting to see how he does once he gets one. I mean, any of these guys in that overtime period to see, one, how does his escapes look? And two, how does his finishing skills look?
Yeah.
That'll be fascinating.
Because it's not like this is different than getting in those positions organically during a roll. You're set and locked in, right? And so it's different. And I don't know, unless you really train for that.
Right.
Like we do, when we do situationals, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So it's interesting. Maybe he is. Maybe he's,
yeah, maybe he could be an absolute
really
savage.
And just training specifically for that. So
right.
But what a great card, man.
Side note, Dan Martinez, he is a former combat jiu-jitsu middleweight champion.
Nice.
So he's actually not as big as I thought. But he does have quite a bit of experience in that. Did we talk about Isaac Michel?
Yep.
Was he the first one that we talked about?
We did.
Those are the main. Oh, excuse me. One last guy, Devontae Johnson. That's a big name.
Yep.
That's a big name. That's a guy that's similar to Elder. Heavy wrestling, really good. Positional dominance, has some good finishing skills.
Right. But
we haven't seen him in this kind of rule format.
Again, that's right.
He might bring, who knows? He might bring something a little special. I think I do default a little bit to the guys that we've seen in this rule set. Your Kyle Baines, your Giancarlo's. I mean, we haven't seen him as much, but I just think he's on a rocket ship right now.
I think even Hassan Rita as well is going to do well in this rule set.
Who, gun to your head, who's winning? And don't you dare pick 4 people.
No, I'm going to pick one person, Bill.
Yeah. You can't say me.
Nor would I.
Master Hickson Gracie. Bring it. Son.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Kyle.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, just be kept for.
Why is that a limb?
No, but I think with anything, it's going out on a limb.
Okay.
I think with this.
I don't know if you know what that means.
I do know what it is.
They
in other words,
that term when you were born, right?
Yeah, they had limbs. Yes, they did have limbs. Believe it or not, they weren't just saplings back then. Okay. We actually had grown trees. So the reason why I say that It's just because of the rest of the card, man.
Mm.
There's not an obvious person that I could make arguments for a bunch of them, but because of the experience he has with the rule set, his athleticism, and I just think that's why I picked him.
I agree.
But I don't have like a rock solid. Like I definitely,
I think he could be the guy that I part of me says Nicky Rod, but I feel like Kyle has the tools and the style to kind of like what Gordon did.
Yep.
Right. When Kyle latches onto something, it's really hard to get out of there.
Yep.
But I'm gonna curveball you, and I'm gonna go Bodoni. I'm gonna do it.
I could make an argument for him too.
Yeah. I think, and part of me just wants to pick someone different than you.
I understand.
But this card is, and sorry for the other guys that we did not go over. Obviously, you can tell I'm long-winded. So, but there's a ton of great names on here. This card is on UFC Fight Pass, not Flow Grappling. If you want, you can literally pay I think $20 and get Fight Pass for the month and watch some UFC cards.
And by the way, folks, this, and not that I'm advertising for it, but there's a great UFC card this weekend, a really good one. And if you needed an excuse to get Fight Pass, then you actually get I believe they give you a discount on actually you can buy it as you can buy it as a package. You could buy the fight the fight itself and then a subscription to Fight Pass for a discount or something. Yeah,
use discount code Grappling With.
There is no discount. Don't do that. We're gonna get sued.
There's no discount yet. Dana, I know you're listening. Just respond to my emails.
No, he's not listening.
You don't know that.
We are getting more subscribers though, so I'm digging it. That's cool.
My mom, my uncle. Yeah. So that's EBI 20, the absolutes.
I think that's great.
I think it's going to be a very worthwhile show to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good one to kind of end it on.
You want to end right there?
Yeah, because I have some interesting things we're going to do for next week.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to talk about, obviously we'll answer some more questions probably. Yeah. But I'd also want to talk about warm-ups because that's...
yes. This is a hot button topic a little bit.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a little controversial. There's ways, and I can tell you my 2 cents on it and physiologically what you should be trying to achieve, in my opinion. And
wait, why are warm-ups controversial?
Well, it's some people
how you apply them,
and
what you do, and to for a little foreshadowing here. Do you absolutely want to just beat people down, which almost like kind of the old school thing was the warm ups. People were like, I could barely get through the warm ups, right?
Yeah,
and then you try to teach class, and I'll talk about some of my thoughts on that kind of stuff. And ahead of time, you guys can shoot some comments about that. And then the following week, I think we're going to have my offspring.
Ooh.
She's going to be up from Colorado. She trains at Professor Jubera's Six Blades Academy down in Colorado.
Yeah.
And she's going to come around and talk about some of her struggles.
Yeah.
And things and her interesting journey with jiu-jitsu as well.
Okay.
So she's very excited about it. She's actually texting me like wanting, I'm like, nope, I'm not giving you any topics there, hon.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, she spent the last 32 years of her life being tortured by me as her dad. So, she knows what to expect. So that should be fun.
Let's touch base on BJJ Stars. Just very briefly.
Okay.
So that's also this weekend on Flow Grappling. Some really big names. That's the only reason we want to touch base on this.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Mika Gaval versus Isaac Bayens.
Okay, that's awesome.
Mika.
Is this on Flow?
This is on Flow.
Okay, nice.
So this is going to be a big one. Mika he got second in his division ADCC. He's literally the biggest phenom in the sport right now, or at least up there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Top 3 probably with Rutolos and Kate Kolabate. So that's one of the big super fights on there. You also have Paulo Miao versus Alexandre Vieira. So it's cool to see Paulo Miao out there. And then we have some other super fights. In my opinion, this is going to be the biggest and best match. And that's Sam Nagai against Fabricio Hokage Andre.
You sold me right there.
That's worth your Flow Grappling subscription, in my opinion.
Fabrizio, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Coming up and coming from that same Mika Gaval.
Yep, the Manaus guys.
The Mouse
there.
guys. That camp is amazing.
And Sam the Guy, I know he's not as known, but Sam the Guy is an absolute superstar. Just watching the beginning of this match will be fun because Fabricio Andre does his little
power up.
Like his power up.
Yep.
The guy does one too.
Nice.
The guy has a super cool kind of like anime. Wah, wah.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, it'll be very cool.
Okay.
So that's going to be great. Bia Mesquite is on this.
Nice.
Jansen Gomez from the Who's Next Flow Grappling TV show is on here. A guy named Ryder Zucchi. He's not super exciting, but he is very good. Anna Rodriguez, she just won Nogi Pans, newer black belt. And then there is a lightweight Grand Prix, which is pretty cool with a couple big names. Mateus Great Gabriel, world champion right there. Pablo Lavaselli, he's actually been on the circuit not too long. He's a newer black belt, but he's had, I would say, some mixed results. He hasn't quite gotten to that. He's gotten on the podium, but he hasn't quite gotten the win at a major. He is now switched to AOJ.
Oh,
So
that's
it'll be-
interesting.
Yeah, he's been at AOJ for a few months now, so it'll be very interesting to see how he does.
Well, the Mendez, they're not only amazing, but they're really good coaches and tacticians too. So,
Yes,
So
yes.
that'd be very cool.
And then one of my personal favorites is Mayram Alves. Mayram has some of the prettiest jiu-jitsu ever. And maybe if you saw his picture, you'd be like, okay,
I
recognize who
can't
this
place
guy
him
is.
right now.
Yeah. But he's a guy from Brazil that has trained a little bit at Team Lloyd Irvin, kind of like Muhammad Ali. Like they have kind of a pathway with some Brazilians that come up there and train with them. But his foot sweeps, his jumping guard path, when people try to pull guard, he jumps over their legs. His side-to-side passing, it is some of the prettiest stuff. He just won Worlds this last time against, I believe it was Pato. So,
Nikita must have been really upset.
yeah, I mean, a couple tears were shed, but I mean, he'll be
Yeah.
right. Really, really just, if you already have Flow, it's worth it.
When is this?
This is on the 21st, October 21st.
Okay.
So it is in Brazil, so I don't know the exact time.
So basically it's Friday.
Yeah. So holla at your boy. Yeah, I don't know. Is that going to be Friday night then?
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking you. I thought you knew. You brought it up.
I am a disappointment.
yeah, very much.
So check out BJJ Stars. That's going to be a really good one on Flow. And then the other card, EBI Absolutes, will be on Fight Pass.
And thanks to our new subscribers, we've
Yeah.
had a pretty good jump. Those of you that are new, please submit questions. We actually read them. Even the trolly funny ones.
We do. I take sometimes usually I'm the one responding. Sometimes Olivia is. If there's something that is for Chris, I throw it at him, and then
because I don't go on. I need a consigliere. I
there's
can't
this
go.
thing with computers. He just doesn't know how to turn it on.
Yeah.
So we.
As I operate my iPad right here.
It's not even on.
I know.
So the
Just for looks.
Yeah, it is. I can look
So he
high
looks
tech,
smart.
bro.
So we were. Sometimes I'm slow to respond.
Yeah.
But always just check those notifications. I'll respond to those bad boys, especially the trolls. I embrace it. But if you got a question, grapplingwithpodcast@gmail.com, or just comment on the YouTube videos. Those are easy ways that we see those.
Yeah.
Hit up Instagram. We're not super active on there, but we do post when we have a new episode or something like that. Bada bing, bada boom.
I like it.
That's it. Send questions.